What's the most NSFW thing you've experienced in a professional situation? I worked at a restaurant and one of the hostesses would talk about having anal beads in while working and how she came when she walked around the restaurant. Walked in on two people having sex in the break room. They claimed they hated each other and they ended up together. Owner's son at a computer repair shop would use the test bench to look up stupid shit. He got the test bench infected with viruses while looking at cat porn. No people, just cats having sex. At least he was laughing uncontrollably at it instead of furiously masturbating to it. There was a guy and a girl, not in a relationship, that used to regularly go into the sick bay around lunchtime for 10 to 20 minutes. She was a bit loud. Everyone nearby knew when they were in session. Work in the NICU. Walked in on a mom and dad snorting mom's pain pills off the medical cart. Go figure, their child was also born addicted to methadone. Immediate reporting done. In Brazil, we have this WhatsApp joke where they put some random video with the audio of Alexis Texas moaning very loud. Once I was on a kinda serious meeting and my boss got caught in one of those jokes. Needless to say that everyone laughed and took a 5-minute break before resuming the meeting. I once saw a girl sit down on the floor in one of the cubicles and show everyone her clit ring. I was getting a physical for school and had to take my gown off for the hernia part. That same second his phone rang and he answered it, and him standing there butt naked while he talks on the phone for 10 minutes. First startup I worked at in the 90s, just a few of us, ran meetings by having the note-taker use a sheet of paper placed over a Playboy. If the note-taker started flipping through the magazine, the meeting wasn't interesting enough and was declared over. Used to work in a porn store. Had to kick someone out for peeing on the floor in a viewing booth. Was fixing someone's computer, found about 35 gigs of child porn. Called the cops and called the dude saying his computer was fixed and ready for pickup. He showed up at the store with the sheriff waiting just inside. In my company we have live video in every conference room. If a meeting is scheduled between two rooms, then the live conference connects automatically and the two rooms are both on live video. Anyone in the company can schedule this. Well, we were in a meeting that ended and the next meeting connected. Turns out the people in the room for the next meeting did not know this and were in a very NSFW activity. The whole executive team watched in shock what was happening in the 100-inch screen in front of them. They still have jobs, but that will haunt them forever. Had sex with an ex at her place of employment, after hours. It wasn't even this was a hard day. I need some hard DK kinda scenario. She actually drove us to her office to bone. When I was 19 I worked for a quick oil change place and I had a woman sit in her car and change every stitch of clothing while I stood there and wrote down her information. Nice try HR department. I'm not falling for that again. I used to work in a sign shop that specialized in vehicle wraps. My co-workers were always fucking around, and one of them must have lost a bet or something. I walked around a tour bus we were wrapping, and I saw him standing on the scissor lift, applying the wrap to the bus, wearing only his work belt and shoes. I worked at a KFC. We had a nasty ex-stripper that worked there and a horny manager. She wanted to go home early so they agreed that she could if he got to finger pop her asshole. They did it right behind the chicken warming case. I quit about a week later. Walked in on two people having sex on a desk after hours. Co-worker's boyfriend dropped her off at work and the two of them asked me if he could experience giving a guy a blowjob and offered to give me one as I was the only bisexual guy they knew. Worked in an office about 10 years ago, on a weekend once when we were closed, but I needed to catch up on a couple of projects. I decided to jerk off at my desk, young and horny. Finished and double-wrapped the tissue for flushing on the way out. Not a minute later, a work colleague walked in. Thank FK. That was close I thought, and told him I'm off home and I'll see him on Monday. On my way out after I was done in the toilet I realized I had forgotten my phone, so walked back into the office to see him at his desk jerking off. Got walked in on while Eiffel Towering a server in the walk-in. Somehow kept my job. I was 50-something working in a middle school as the network/computer tech and got a blowjob from a 30-something social studies teacher in her room, at her desk, during one of her planning periods. My coworker lightly brushes my junk and slaps my ass whenever she gets the chance. I'm not interested in her, but I do like the attention. I once adjusted the feet of an A-frame ladder to account for what had to have been a 60-degree slope. The slope was a metal roof, over a balcony on the second floor. I then stood on top to paint the peaks of the house on the third story. If the ladder slid down the slope I probably would have fallen 20 to 30 feet to ground. I put a lot of trust in those rubber feet and they did not let me down. Pun intended. 18 years old. Job interview to be a server at Famous Dave's Barbecue. I wore a strapless dress, looked super cute. The manager was a 40-something-year-old guy. He ran through the job's details and answered my questions. We stood up to shake hands and seal the deal. When I shot up excitedly from my seat, radiating a big thankful smile, my feet were stepping on the front of the bottom of my dress. The dress went down to my hips and I just stood there, all perky tits in his face and whatnot. Manager I worked with often said some really sexual things to me, despite being a gay dude. Him female made me wonder if he was hetero-curious. Another manager implied he was into bondage like heavy master/slave play while we were working together on something. Good times. A professor feeling my ass and crotch in his lab. He also tried to kiss me and kept on telling me how much he wanted to see me naked. It was as creepy as it sounds. I once spotted a man at work, who was wearing a harness, walking around on a 20-tall surface without tying off. So I told him to tie off. NSFW. Getting a blowjob from an HP representative while working in procurement in a government job. She was pretty and gave a great blowjob, but we went with Dell. They are more reliable and have a better warranty service. Girlfriend's coworker walked in on the boss' son jacking off in the supply closet. They lock eyes and the son just goes, "Oh shit." Coworker backed out and closed the door. Son moved away, haha. I organize orgies and sex parties. I've pretty much seen it all. Guy from work randomly telling me about his hot cousin and how when he was around her he would have to put a pillow on himself to cover up. There are other weird things he says to me. I guess he thinks he can get away with it since I am new and 23 and he is 55, but his weird remarks sometimes get to me. Some patient at the hospital comes out of his room wearing jeans with a boner protruding through the open zipper. The people he walked past on that floor were too in shock to say anything to the guy. So he strolls onto the elevator and heads down to the lobby, full mast. Goes to the cafeteria, picks out some food, then security finally makes it to the guy while he is waiting in the checkout line. Think he got a psych consult after that. My boss told my co-worker, "We don't hire black people or women because they don't work as hard." No one wants to say it but you and I know these are facts. Unrelated, he fired me and charged me $600 for a company laptop that he claims he leased me even though at the time it was bought from me he used words like gift and reward and I never signed any terms of use. Really just a shitty guy. A woman I worked with one day just came right up to me and started grinding on me because she wanted a favor, and figured that was the best way to get me to comply. It wasn't. Executive at a major billion-dollar tech corporation got fired after a Vegas marketing conference. At a huge party where CEO and major officers were in attendance as well as some celebrities, he grabbed a video camera from the marketing team. He was executive, they kind of had to give it to him, and he proceeded to go into the ladies' restroom and walk along past all the stalls with the camera above the doors pointing down. He had to have been completely lit. He was gone the next day. Not really a professional situation but it was on the job but in college I was a delivery boy for Domino's and I had to run through a parking garage staircase to get to these apartments. I busted through the door to the stairwell and almost hit some high school kid getting a BJ. Didn't really want to be a buzzkill so I just gave them a quick noise and kept running lol. While I was on cash at McDonald's during a warm summer day I had a 40-ish hot-ass MILF of a customer practically flash me to see if I would give her any free. She was only wearing a bikini top and shorts and she started pulling it to the side. I was so shocked I had no response but her GFM gassing got her to stop. It took like 5 minutes before I could think again. I was in HS at the time. I used to work hotel room service. I've seen it all on the job. The CEO of my company called a female co-worker a cocksucker once. Then said he wasn't sure if it was a compliment or not. So that's a thing. You ever seen the movie Waiting? We played the game at my work, females included. During my ER clinicals to become a paramedic I saw 2 nurses and a doc go into a room together. Thought nothing of it until I went into that room to get something and they were having themselves a good old-fashioned 3-way. I wasn't sure what to do so I did the mature thing and tried to gossip amongst the other nurses. They all already knew about it. Apparently the 3 of them actually lived together. Well, in my previous job I occasionally wrote scripts to erotic comic strips, and often I'd try to look up images to reference various poses I was mentioning so the artist could get them right. So basically my job was to browse porn occasionally. I also often worked with our gallery, which was in itself quite NSFW. I don't think it counts, but I've boned a couple girls in offices I used to work in, but always way after everyone was gone and always behind locked doors. I had a manager in a call center in 1999. 2000. She would sometimes have one-on-one meetings with employees in her office. During a meeting with me she was wearing a short dress, skirt, uncrossed her legs in a way where I could see she wasn't wearing underwear and had a landing strip. I'm pretty sure she noticed that I noticed, but I don't think she was doing it on purpose. At a work retreat, I went into the hotel hot tub late at night. The tub was empty except for another couple. The woman was being fingered. They left before I could get acquainted. At a job interview for insurance sales, the woman interviewing me just opened her legs, giving me a wide view of her goodies. Got the job. When I worked at fast food place, a crew member could toss a quarter down my shirt from like 10 feet away even with the top button done up. I got to keep the quarter once I pulled it out of my bra. I haven't worked at very many professional places. Matched with a girl on Tinder, who was my patient a few hours prior. Did not recognize her, or connect the dots when I swiped right. She did. Police officer here. Got a call of a screaming woman. Get to location, knock on door and nobody answers. We kick in door due to woman possibly in trouble. We find man and woman in bedroom naked. We explain why we got the call and both don't want to talk about the screaming or why they wouldn't answer the door. We thought we had some kind of sexual assault. Woman finally comes clean and tells us, and I quote, "Okay, I was screaming. I wasn't being attacked. Hess, my boyfriend. He asked to put it in my ass and I finally agreed. It was my first time and I screamed because it hurt like hell. Probably most awkward call I've ever had. Driving a company vehicle that had 10-plus-year-old tires, brakes that were questionable at best, no heating, no AC, no rear view mirror, and doing all of it in wintry and icy roads. Braked for a stop sign a full 30 feet before because I knew the brakes were bad. Almost T-boned a car because the vehicle had absolutely no traction left in the tires for the brakes to work in the snow. A lady had a yoga ball which had a dildo apparatus on it. She would always wear skirts to work and I guess ride the beast all day. Well, one day she had to leave rather quickly and forgot to turn the thing over so the dildo portion was hidden. She left the next day. At the boarding school where I used to work, a 14-year-old boy was caught having a wank while watching Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Hot girl at my work flashed her bra at me while walked past each other coming around a corner. You'd think I would have realized that she wanted to FK. But I assumed this and every other hint she gave me was a joke. While in an interview something came up about cameras not being in the room we were in. The guy says to me, "Yeah, we could be butt fucking in here and no one would know." I'm a respiratory therapist, who's worked in both hospitals and home care. So, a lot. I had a code on a 26-year-old who wasn't wearing a helmet while snowmobiling. She did not make it. The hospitalist on duty came down and into the ed room. He lifted the sheet, looked, said she's young and walked out. Not bad. Right? He was lifting the sheet at her waist, not her head. I caused one at an electronics repair shop back in the 90s. Back in the Philippines, we had two separate voltages for our power outlets, 110 volts and 220 volts, so you had to be really careful where you plugged your shit. I had basically plugged our VHS player in the 220 volt socket, frying it completely. Long story short, my mom brings it into the shop to get fixed. When my mom came back to pick it up, the shop offered to test it, saying there's already a tape in here anyway. Unfortunately, it was a hentai video I forgot to take out, and it was playing on the big screen at the front of the shop, with my horrified mother looking on. I got a blowjob from my manager while she was on a conference call with all the other managers in the region and the regional manager. Then again, I don't know if a movie theater is especially professional. Lots of people talking about sexual stuff. I'd if mine fits in. In a regional meeting, 80 to 100 people. We all generally know each other and it's pretty quiet as we wait for the RVP to start the meeting. As the RVP starts talking, an employee quietly walks in a minute or two late. Common excusable occurrence as we all deal with clients all day. Schedules overlap sometimes. All of a sudden some retard, in the middle of a silent room full of co-workers and our bosses, loudly says Hess late cause Hess black. What followed was the most awkward silence I've ever experienced. He was trying to be funny. He almost got fired. No one was working. That's not very suitable for work.